Hare Krishna, Sanjay here, and after introducing us to the field and its knower, Krishna now tells us what a person who truly knows actually looks like in real life. Not in theory, not in scripture, but in how they walk, how they speak, and how they treat the world around them. Chapter 13, Part 2, Qualities of True Knowledge, Humility over Ego, Scenes 13.9 to 13.19. Let's step in together. Introduction. Wisdom wears no crown. Scene. The battlefield is silent, but Arjuna's mind is alert. He has understood that the body, mind, and emotions are the field and that his true identity is the knower. Now he turns toward a new question. What does it mean to live wisely, to walk this awareness in daily life? Then Krishna, ever the compassionate teacher, begins to describe the marks of a wise person not as external power or scholarly intellect, but as inner qualities of the heart. He calls these virtues Jananam, true knowledge. It's a surprising redefinition. Krishna does not equate wisdom with book learning or clever debate. To him, real knowledge begins when the ego dissolves. The wise are not those who dominate others, but those who have conquered themselves. He lists humility, non-violence, forgiveness, sincerity, self-control, compassion, and devotion among these 20 qualities. These are not rules to obey, but reflections of an awakened soul, like the fragrance that naturally arises from a flower in bloom. For Arjuna, this lesson lands deeply. He has seen the power of intellect and valor, yet they have not brought peace. Now Krishna shows him the true royal path: humility over pride, service over ego, peace over dominance. Now, for us today, this teaching feels revolutionary. In an age that glorifies information, achievement, and status, Krishna turns the mirror upside down. The wise, he says, are not the loudest but the calmest, not those who conquer others but those who master themselves. Knowledge without virtue becomes manipulation. Success without humility breeds arrogance. Only when wisdom humbles the heart does it become divine. This part of the Gita is like a manual for the modern seeker, not about escaping the world, but living in it consciously. Krishna offers a checklist for inner growth. How kind am I? How detached? How honest? How peaceful? True learning, he reminds us, is transformation. Focus. Real wisdom shines not through words but through character. Knowledge fills the mind. Humility opens the heart. Scene 13.9. Seeing the temporary as temporary. Scene. Humility, non-pretentiousness, non-violence, patience, uprightness, service to the teacher, purity, steadfastness, and self-control. These are the beginnings of knowledge. Then Krishna begins the sacred list. His tone is not commanding but illuminating. He calls these virtues the beginning of knowledge, implying that intellectual mastery without them is hollow. Humility comes first because pride blinds the seeker. The ego says, I know, while wisdom whispers, I'm learning. Nonviolence follows not just in action but in thought and word. Patience, honesty, cleanliness, and self-control refine the field so that the light of awareness can shine through. Service to the teacher symbolizes receptivity, the willingness to learn without resistance. Purity means sincerity, alignment between thought, word, and deed. For Arjuna, these qualities begin to reshape his understanding of strength. True power lies not in conquering others but in mastering the impulses within. Now, in our time, these virtues sound like lost art. We celebrate intelligence but neglect humility, admire speed but forget patience, praise ambition but ignore sincerity. Krishna gently restores balance. Greatness without goodness is emptiness. Every spiritual journey begins when the mind bows not to another person but to truth itself. Humility allows grace to enter. Self-control allows peace to stay. Focus. The foundation of wisdom is character. To learn truth, first learn to listen with humility, patience, and sincerity. Scene 13.10. Letting go of pride and attachment. Scene. Indifference to the objects of the senses, absence of ego, perception of the evils of birth, death, old age, and disease. Then, Krishna continues describing the qualities of wisdom. He speaks now of detachment, not coldness, but freedom from addiction to sense pleasures and self-importance. To be indifferent to the objects of the senses means not being enslaved by cravings. To live amidst beauty without clinging to it, to enjoy without being bound, that is true mastery. Absence of ego follows the dissolving of the illusion, I am the center. Krishna also calls for awareness of life's impermanence. Birth, aging, and death are not tragedies but teachers. To see their inevitability makes one humble, compassionate, and wise. For Arjuna, who stands between life and death on the battlefield, these words are sobering and liberating. The body ages, the mind changes, but the self remains untouchable. Now, this verse feels almost prophetic in our modern age of consumption and vanity. We build our identities around appearance, possessions, and pleasure, forgetting their impermanence. Krishna's insight pierces through illusion. Awareness of mortality is not morbid, it is awakening. When you remember that all things fade, you stop clinging and start living meaningfully. Focus. Detachment is not denial. It is wisdom that loves without clinging and lives without fear. Scene 30.11 Freedom from dependence. Scene. Detachment, freedom from attachment to children, spouse, home, and constant even-mindedness in desired and undesired events. Then, Krishna now turns from the external world to emotional attachment. He doesn't condemn love, he refines it. True love is not possession, it's freedom. The wise love deeply but without dependence. Freedom from attachment doesn't mean abandonment, it means not losing yourself in what you love. When affection becomes awareness instead of addiction, relationships become sacred, not suffocating. To be even-minded in pleasant and unpleasant circumstances is the flowering of maturity. The wise don't deny emotion, but they don't drown in it either. For Arjuna, this is crucial. His love for family has paralyzed him with guilt and grief. Krishna now shows him that love guided by wisdom serves dharma. Love clouded by attachment breeds suffering. Now, in our relationships today, this teaching is pure gold. We cling to people, roles, and expectations and call it love. But Krishna's path teaches, carefully but don't cling. Let love liberate, not confine. When you stop demanding permanence from the impermanent, you discover peace even amidst change. Focus, love with awareness, not possession. When your happiness no longer depends on control, it turns into compassion. Scene 13.12 Learning to see the divine purpose. Scene. Unswerving devotion to me, inclination to solitude, aversion to crowds, constancy in self-knowledge, and vision of the purpose of true knowledge. Then, Krishna now moves from ethical virtues to spiritual realization. At the heart of all wisdom lies devotion, unwavering love for the divine. It is not ritualistic faith, but living relationship with truth. The lover of God enjoys solitude because silence deepens awareness. Crowds and noise dilute focus. Yet solitude here does not mean loneliness. It means communion with the inner self. Constancy in self-knowledge is staying rooted in awareness even while acting. Vision of the purpose of knowledge means seeing that all learning, all doing, all seeking leads to liberation, freedom from ignorance. For Arjuna, this is the bridge between action and contemplation. He can be amidst armies yet inwardly solitary, amidst war yet inwardly peaceful, because his mind rests in Krishna. Now, in today's overstimulated world, Krishna's words sound like medicine. We seek stimulation but rarely silence, yet wisdom flowers in solitude. When we turn inward, the noise fades and clarity dawns. Devotion is the ultimate focus. It makes the mind one-pointed, the heart pure, and the purpose clear. Focus. Solitude strengthens devotion, and devotion reveals wisdom. The quiet heart sees what the restless mind misses. Scene 13.13 Knowing the knowable. Scene. I shall now explain that which is to be known, by knowing which one attains immortality, the beginningless, supreme Brahman, said to be neither being nor non-being. Then Krishna shifts the tone from qualities of knowledge to the ultimate object of knowledge. He prepares Arjuna for the next revelation. What is to be known? All virtues are means to this, to realize the supreme beyond dualities of existence and non-existence. The seeker's journey thus far from devotion to discernment leads here, to the realization of Brahman, the eternal consciousness that underlies all. It is not an entity, but the essence of all entities, not something that exists among things, but that which makes existence possible. For Arjuna, this is the threshold between knowledge and realization. The knower, the field, and the object of knowledge are about to merge into one infinite awareness. Now, this verse connects with the essence of every mystical path. Whether you call it God, consciousness, or truth, the goal of spiritual life is not belief but direct knowing. We spend our lives studying what changes. Krishna invites us to know what never changes. Focus. All true knowledge leads to one truth, awareness itself. To know that is to go beyond death, beyond division, beyond doubt. Scene 13.14, the light beyond darkness. Scene. Everywhere are his hands and feet, eyes, heads, faces, and ears. He exists, enveloping all. Then Krishna now begins to describe the indescribable, the nature of the supreme reality. It is not a person bound by form, but a consciousness that pervades all forms. The divine sees through every eye, hears through every ear, works through every hand. This verse is breathtaking in its universality. The infinite is not somewhere else, it pulses through all beings. Every heartbeat, every breath, every act of awareness is his presence manifesting through the field. The divine is immanent, living within everything, not outside of it. For Arjuna, this is a moment of revelation. Krishna's words dissolve the boundaries between me and the world. The same spirit that animates his life animates his enemies too. All divisions melt into one presence. Now, modern spirituality echoes this understanding. The scientist may call it energy, the mystic calls it spirit, the poet calls it love, but it is the same all-pervading consciousness. When we see life this way, arrogance dies. How can one harm another when all are expressions of the same source? Focus. The divine is not distant, it breathes through you, through me, through everything. To see this is to bow to all of life. Scene 13.15, closer than the closest. Scene. Though he perceives all the senses, he is without the senses. He is unattached, yet sustains all. He is free from the qualities of nature, yet enjoys them. Then, Krishna reveals a paradox that defines the nature of the divine. Though he acts through the senses, he himself is beyond them. He sustains all movement but is never moved. He experiences yet remains the unchanging witness. This is consciousness untouched by what it illuminates. Fire lights everything it touches but remains unburned. Likewise, the self experiences all emotions, thoughts, and actions, yet is never tainted by them. For Arjuna, this explanation bridges understanding and awe. The same awareness that experiences joy and sorrow is itself beyond joy and sorrow. The mind reacts, consciousness only reflects. Now, in modern life, this wisdom offers the key to peace. You can live in the world, work, love, and feel deeply, yet stay inwardly free. The secret is to remember, I am the witness, not the waves. We lose peace when we identify with passing sensations. Krishna shows the way back to stay rooted in awareness that experiences but does not cling. Focus. Be in the world, but not entangled by it. The witness within you is untouched by what it observes. Scene 13.60, beyond near and far. Scene. He is outside and within all beings, unmoving yet moving, far and near. He is imperishable and beyond comprehension. Then, Krishna continues weaving paradoxes that reveal the infinite. The divine is both transcendent and immanent beyond all, yet present in every atom. He moves everything but himself remains unmoved. He is near to the pure of heart and far from the deluded mind. For Arjuna, this challenges his very perception of divinity. God is not only in temples or heavens, but in the pulse of existence itself. Every thought, every atom, every breeze carries his presence. The Lord is both the dancer and the stillness of the dance. Now, to us, this verse feels like poetry written for mindfulness. In moments of stillness, when we quiet our inner noise, we sense it a presence both intimate and vast. It is the silence behind sound, the awareness beneath thought, the life within life. When we forget this, we feel lonely. When we remember, we feel infinite. The divine is never absent, only our attention wanders. Focus. God is both within and beyond, closer than breath, wider than sky. To live with this awareness is to walk in sacredness. Scene 13.17, the light of lights. Scene. He is the light of all lights, said to be beyond darkness. He is knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the goal of knowledge, seated in the hearts of all. Then, Krishna now speaks of the divine as light, not physical light, but the light of awareness that makes seeing possible. All external illumination fades without this inner light. The Supreme is not only the source of knowledge, but also what knowledge seeks. It is both the path and the destination. To know God is to realize that the knower, knowing, and known are one. For Arjuna, this explanation transforms the battlefield into a metaphor for inner discovery. Every struggle, every question, every loss points back to this inner light that never dims. Now, in modern terms, this verse describes consciousness itself, the light that reveals all experience. Science can explain objects of perception, but only self-awareness reveals the perceiver. The one who sees is light itself. When you realize that this consciousness is divine, every act becomes sacred. You stop searching outside and begin to awaken inside. Focus. The light you seek is the one that lets you see. Awareness itself is divinity. Scene 13.18. Beyond the pairs. Scene. He is said to be beyond being and non-being. He is the supreme reality whom both the wise and the seers describe as imperishable. Then, Krishna now dissolves the last human duality, existence and non-existence. The Supreme cannot be described in opposites because it transcends them. It is beyond is and is not, beyond birth and death, beyond light and dark. For Arjuna, this expands his understanding infinitely. The Lord is not confined to the manifest or the unmanifest. He is the very possibility of both. The battlefield, the war, life, and death all arise within this infinite consciousness. Now, for modern seekers, this verse is the heart of spiritual science. The divine is not an object to find, but the reality that enables finding. Awareness is not a product of life, it is the source from which life arises. When you stop searching for God as a thing, you begin to recognize Him as the background of all things. Focus. God is not something you discover, He is what allows all discovery. Awareness is the ground of being itself. Scene 13.19. The union of knowledge and knower. Scene. Thus, the field, knowledge, and the object of knowledge have all been described. He who understands this truly attains my being. Then, Krishna now concludes the second part of his teaching. The seeker who understands the three, the field, world and body, knowledge, the virtues and awareness, and the object of knowledge, the Supreme, becomes one with the Divine. This is not intellectual understanding but living realization. When you see the unity of knower, knowledge, and known, separation ends. The wave recognizes it is the ocean. For Arjuna, this is a moment of inner awakening. The war is still ahead, but his battle with ignorance is ending. He begins to see that all action, all learning, all devotion are movements of the same consciousness. Now, this verse sums up the spiritual journey for all time. True knowledge doesn't create pride, it dissolves the I. When the seeker realizes that God alone sees, acts, and knows, the burden of life lifts. The field still moves, but you are no longer lost in it. You act, love, and serve as expressions of the One. Focus. Wisdom culminates in unity. To know truly is to become one with the known. Closing summary, humility, light, and liberation. Scene. The air on Kurukshetra grows still. Krishna's words have taken Arjuna from the outer world of action to the inner world of awareness, and now into the boundless expanse of divinity itself. Then, the first part of this chapter revealed the field, the changing body and mind. Now Krishna has described the qualities of true knowledge and the supreme reality to be known. Real knowledge, he says, is not pride of intellect, but the fragrance of humility, patience, devotion, and clarity. It is born of service and compassion, not ambition. The more one knows truth, the less one boasts of knowing. Then Krishna unfolds the indescribable, the divine as all-pervading, beyond qualities, beyond dualities. The light that shines in all lights, the witness behind all thoughts, the consciousness in every heart that is the reality to be known. For Arjuna, this revelation dissolves fear and confusion. His teacher is not just his friend but the infinite manifest. The war outside fades before the vastness of the truth inside. Now, in our lives, we too are called to make this shift from intellect to insight, from ego to awareness. We gather information endlessly, but wisdom begins when the heart bows in humility. The path of the Gita is not withdrawal, but awakening, to see the same consciousness in all beings, to love without pride, to act without clinging. True spirituality is not a display, but a disappearance of the I that claims ownership. The world may change, but the light of awareness never does. When you live anchored in that awareness, Even the storm becomes peace. Focus, knowledge matures into humility, humility opens into love, love blossoms into oneness. To know the divine is to see the same light in every heart, including your own, and that is where we step out for today. Krishna has just given us a mirror, not to look at our face, but to look at our ego. What did you see? Until our next scene, Hare Krishna.